My mother-in-law told me she'd help out while I was recovering from surgery. The first morning she tossed my crutches and said, "Get up, you're not a queen." Then she took my keys, cancelled my doctor's appointments, and told my husband, "She's faking it, look how she manipulates you." I cry. Right in silence for a week. Then I set up cameras. While she was out, my husband watched the footage that night. The next morning her bags were packed. And she never saw it coming. I had a CL surgery in March of last year. It was one of the worst months of my life. And not because of the injury, that part sucks, sure, the pain, the weakness, not being able to walk without crutches or help. It's frustrating when you're used to doing everything yourself. But the worst part was what happened after I got home. And it was all because of one person, my mother-in-law, Susan. I never liked her much, but I tried. I really did, for my husband's sake. We live in Greeley, Colorado, not a fancy house, but a solid little home. I do graphic design work from home, and my husband Mark works full-time for a construction company as a project manager. I'm 33, he's 37. We've been married 5 years before this and I honestly thought we had a strong marriage. We were happy. We had our issues. Sure, mostly small things. He worked long hours. I had to handle a lot of things at home. But he was always kind, supportive, or I thought he was. Until his mom moved in. I tore my ass slipping on the stairs while carrying laundry. I knew right away it was bad. After surgery, the doctor said I needed strict rest, ice elevation, and crutches for at least 6 weeks, maybe more. No walking, no binding too far, and absolutely no putting weight on that leg. Mark said he could handle helping me. But with his job, we both knew it would be hard. That's when Susan offered to come help. I didn't want her there. My gut screamed now. But I didn't want to be the villain. So I said okay. She showed up the night I got home from surgery with a casserole and that fake smile she always wears. "Just here to help out, sweetheart," she said. The first night was quiet. Mark was home. I stayed in bed, took my pain meds, and left. The next morning, everything changed. Mark had to leave early for a meeting. I woke up alone. My mouth was dry. I needed water. My leg throbbed. Like how I reached for my crutches, but they were there. I looked around confused. Then I heard her voice outside the room. "Good morning, princess," she said, walking in with my crutches in one hand and a trash bag and the other. I forced to smile. "Hey, can I get those?" She didn't hand them over. Instead, she stepped closer and said, "You need to start this." I blinked. "Why this act?" She said, "You're not helpless. You're not royalty. Get up." She walked over and tossed my crutches into the hallway. "Get up. You're not a queen. You're a grown woman. Walk." I couldn't believe what I was hearing. I was stunned. I tried to explain, tell her the doctor said no weight at all. But she waved me off. "You're not injured. You're lazy. You're manipulating." Mark. I started to cry, not out loud, just silent tears. I couldn't move. She left the room. That day was the longest of my life. She didn't bring me food, didn't check on me. I had to crawl to the bathroom. I tried to text Mark, but she had taken my phone to give me a break from screen time. That's what she told him later. I was shaking by the time he got home. When I tried to tell him what happened, he looked confused. Said, "Is Susan told him?" I'd been up and walking when he left. "She's worried," he said. She said, "Maid, we are just anxious that maybe you're scared to push yourself." I couldn't believe what I was hearing. I didn't say much that night, just went to bed. The same thing happened the next day, and the day after that. She took my case, cancelled my follow-up appointment, told me it was just a waste of money since I wasn't really trying to recover. She'd sit in the kitchen with the phone on speaker pretending to be me and cancel my appointments. Then she'd walk in my room and say things like, "You don't deserve Mark. He's too kind for you," or "You're weak. You don't know how to be a wife." She was careful with Mark, polite, loving. She made him dinner, gave him little updates, told him I was sleeping all day, that I didn't want to try physical therapy, that I was giving up. Mark started pulling away. He started acting distant, tired, snippy. I asked him if he believed me. He said, "I don't know what to think anymore." That broke me. I cried in silence for a week until the day she went out. I saw her leave the driveway. She didn't take her phone, said she was going to her friends for lunch. I pulled myself off the couch, crawled over to the storage cabinet, and grabbed the old baby monitor said we used when my sister visited with her baby. I also had an old Android phone I used for work stuff, still worked, still had a camera. I spent the next 2 hours setting up hidden cameras. One in the kitchen, one in the living room, behind a plant, one in the hallway shelf near the front door. I even put one in the guest bathroom. I was shaking the whole time. I prayed they'd catch something. And oh boy, they did that night. I let her go off like she always did. She knocked over my water cup, called me a spoiled brat, told me I'd never make a good mother with that attitude. Then she went to bed. I waited until March got home from a late shift. I asked him to set. He signed wood. Now I pulled out my phone, hit play, and watched as his face changed from confusion to anger to disgust. He watched her throw my crutches, call me names, kick my leg. Yes, kick. Not hard, but enough to make me wince. In the footage, he watched her cancel my appointments, mark my lamp, and call him a soft little boy for believing me. He didn't say a word. Then he stood up. Where is she? He asked. I pointed toward the guest room. He marched down the hall and opened the door. She looked up from her magazine and smiled. Hi, honey. Mark's voice was calm, cold. You need to leave. Her smile dropped. What you need to leave? I saw what you did. I saw everything. She tried to fake cry, deny it, blame me, said I edited the videos, said I was manipulative. He didn't buy it. He said she could either leave in the morning or he'd call the police. She left. But that's not the end. That's just where it started. She left the next more. Being Mark stood by the door with her suitcase. She tried one last guilt trip, crying, saying she had nowhere to go, that I had poisoned him. He didn't say a word. She walked out, slamming the door behind her. I thought that was it. I thought we were done with her. I was wrong. 2 days later, we got a call from Mark's sister Rachel. She lives in Denver. We don't talk much, but she's always been decent to me. She said, what the hell is going on? Mom's been staying here crying nonstop, says you two kicked her out after she tried to care for you. I could hear the judgment in her voice. I asked her if Susan showed her the footage. She said you faked it. Rachel said that you edited it to make her look bad. That hit me hard, harder than I expected. I told her I'd send the uncut videos. I did. She never replied. A week passed. Mark was cold and now distant, quiet. He didn't want to talk about what happened. Every time I brought it up, he'd shut down. One night, I found him staring at the baby monitor food, not even playing the footage, just staring at the screen like he was trying to figure something out. You okay? I asked. He flinched. Yeah. Just thinking. I didn't push, but something was off. Later that week, I got a letter in the mail. No return address. Inside was a single photo, me in the bathroom, from one of the hidden cameras, a still frame, and a note. Ever wonder how far you're willing to go? I froze. I ran to the hallway shelf and checked the camera. It was still there, still recording. I checked the up. No unusual activity. No movement at night. No sign of entry. I showed Mark. He stared at it for a long time, then finally said she had to have copied the footage before she left. But how did she get it? I asked. We checked the old Android phone. Gone. I hadn't noticed it missing. Mark didn't say anything, just clenched his jaw. She's trying to say. Last he finally said, I wanted to believe that was it. But then I started getting calls from strange numbers. Every time I answered, I heard silence, then a woman whispering, liar. It happened 6 times in one day. Mark told me to block them, change numbers. I did. Then Rachel showed up at our door. It was a Saturday afternoon. I was sitting on the couch, leg elevated. She knocked. Mark answered. She walked in without saying a word and dropped to us. Be stick on the table. I watched as read things, she said. I tensed up. She looked at me. Her eyes were red. I thought you were lying. But Mom, she's sick. I didn't know. I didn't say anything. Rachel turned to Mark. But why did you give her the footage? Mark flanked. What? Rachel looked confused. She said you gave her copies. She said you asked her to delete them so you two could move on. I turned to Mark. What the hell is she talking about? He froze. Then he said she threatened me. I felt my stomach drop. She said if I didn't give her the videos, she'd tell people you faked the injury, that you were scamming disability. I'm not even on disability. I started. I know, he said, but she said she could make it look real. She had old text stuff she twisted. So you gave her everything? I asked, trying to stay calm. He nodded. She's still controlling you. I said, even now. Rachel looked between us, uncomfortable. You guys need to figure this out. But you should know Mom's not done. She walked out, and I knew she was right. Susan was planning something. And I wasn't going to sit around and wait. I was going to finish what I started. But not just with videos. This time, after Rachel left, things got quiet. But it wasn't peace. It was the kind of silence that feels like something's about to explode. Mark tried to act like things were normal. Made dinner, watched TV, touched my shoulder. When he walked past me like that, made everything okay. But I couldn't let it go. He gave her the videos. He gave away my wonderful. Hence my proof. I stopped talking to him for 3 days. Then I got a letter in the mail again. This one wasn't anonymous. It was from a law firm. Inside was a formal notice. Susan was filing a report accusing me of harassment, emotional abuse, and illegal surveillance. She was pressing charges, the letter said. I had recorded her without consent in private areas of the home and used it to manipulate a family member. My stomach flipped. I showed it to Mark. He turned white. She's bluffing, he said. But even he didn't sound sure. She's trying to turn this into a crime. I said, I'll fix this, he said, but I didn't trust him anymore. So I heard my own lawyer. He was blunt. She's testing you. If you don't push back hard, she'll keep going. This is about control. He filed a cease and desist. We drafted a counterclaim for defamation and filed to get a restraining order. And that's when Susan went nuclear. 3 days later, someone broke into my online storage, my Google Drive, my medical records, therapy notes from years ago, old journal scans gone deleted. I contacted support, and thankfully Google was able to restore it. But it was clear this wasn't just about getting revenge. Susan wanted to destroy my credibility, and somehow she was getting into things she shouldn't have access to. That night, I sat down with Mark. I need to ask something, I said. And I need you to be honest. He looked up at you. Still talking to her. Silence, Ma. I didn't want to worry you, he said quietly. I stood up, barely able to balance on my leg. What did she say? She just wanted to talk, said she was getting help. That she wanted to apologize. You believe that? I didn't believe it, he said. But I thought maybe she's changing. I couldn't even look at him. You let her in again. I said she's in our life again because of you. Then I remembered something else when the footage got deleted from Google Drive. I got an alert on my email, a device signed in from Denver, where Rachel lives. I texted her, have you given Mom access to your devices? She replied, I don't think so. Why? I didn't answer. I was already logging into my truck or up the old Android phone. It was still connected. I pinged it. It showed up not in Denver, but at a motel here in Greeley. Susan wasn't just meddling from afar. She was back in town. Stood up, heart pounding. This wasn't over. She was planning something. And I needed to be ready. When I saw the motel address pop up on my phone, something inside me clicked. I was done being afraid. I was done waiting. I didn't tell Mark. I grabbed the crutches, put on a hoodie, and called Rachel, told her everything. She didn't sound shocked. I'll meet you there, she said. We drove separately. I waited across the street until I saw her Reader's UV pull into the lot. Rachel walked up to me on the sidewalk, looked at the tracker on my phone, and then stared at the motel room to 13. She shook her head. What the hell is she doing? I don't care. We're ending it tonight, I said. Rachel hesitated. You sure about this? I've never been more sure. She nodded once and followed me up the stairs. We didn't knock. I had the Android phone's audio turned up. There was movement inside, music, a woman's voice on the phone laughing. Rachel raised her hand and knocked hard. Nothing. Then again. The door opened. Susan, her eyes locked onto mine. She smiled like nothing had happened. Well, thought you'd never show. She tried to act calm and control, but I could see it in her eyes. She was caught off guard. Rachel pushed past her into the room. I followed. Inside was chaos, papers everywhere, old bills, flash drives, a laptop open on the bed. Rachel went straight to the desk. What the hell is this? Susan closed the door. You have no right to be here. I stepped forward. You broke into my accounts. You stole my phone. You tried to make it look like I was unstable. You are unstable, she snapped. You've been poisoning my son against me. Rachel turned. Mom, you hacked her stuff. You lied about the videos. You're filing fake reports. Susan pointed at her. Don't talk to me like that. You don't know what it's like. She's turning him into a stranger. I laughed that you did that all by yourself. Then I held up my phone. I recorded this whole conversation. In her face went blank. You're bluffing, she said. No, I'm not. I backed away, hit send, and uploaded the recording and photos of her motels set up to my lawyer's encrypted folder. Charges are coming. I said, you want to keep playing games. You'll be dealing with police next. Rachel held up one of the flash drives. This has everything. I'm done protecting you. Susan broke. I saw it in real time. Her face crumpled. She sat down on the edge of the bed, shaking her head. I just wanted to protect him, she whispered. No, you wanted control. I said you hated that I wouldn't bout you, or I gave you everything. She sobbed. I opened my home, cooked for you. You tore me down, I said, my voice flat. You humiliated me. When I couldn't walk, you tried to destroy my marriage. You lied, stole, you broke laws. I'll tell the truth now, she said suddenly. I'll fix it. I shook my head. It's too late. We walked out. Rachel dropped the flash drive off with my lawyer. The next morning the case moved fast. Police searched Susan's motel room and found files with my name, medical records, fake text screenshots she had typed up herself, even a burner phone she used to send those creepy calls. She was arrested on charges of harassment, stalking, and unlawful surveillance. The irony wasn't lost on me. Mark, he didn't fight when I asked him to move out. I let her in. I broke your trust, he said. I don't even know who I am anymore. You didn't protect me. I said you gave her everything I used to survive. I know. He left 2 days later. Rachel helped me box his stuff.